All right, we're going to get started. Please join me to welcome Sonia Thomas, President of the Wu Yi Children's Services Board of Directors.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sonia Thomas, President of the Board of Directors. Welcome to our 2020 Fall Benefit entitled Resilience, Back to Learning. At Wu Yi Children's Services, we believe nothing is more essential than excellent childcare and education for all of our children right from the start. So every day we partner with parents as well as countless individuals and organizations across San Francisco to provide a network that both strengthens and connects our diverse, resilient community around our children. Because when we stand up for children, we stand up for one another. Now, the theme of our evening is, you guessed it, resilience. We will showcase stories of our resilient community working together to provide the best start to a brighter future for all our children. Today, we are here to celebrate and donate. We celebrate you, our dedicated supporters. We know this year has been trying for everyone, and we cannot thank you enough for making the time to join us this evening. Please make a gift anytime you feel inspired. To donate, follow the link in our chat or text Wu Yi to 44321. Funds raised this evening will help our teachers and families overcome this pandemic and get kids back to learning, receiving high quality education and childcare. We have a very exciting program planned for you, starting with an all-star panel followed by a very special performance by two piano journey mom and son duo, Chris and Michelle Kuo. Now let's start our evening and welcome our courageous leader, Chief Executive Officer, Monica Walters.
Thank you, Sonia, and welcome everyone to Wu Yi Children's Services Resilience Back to Learning fundraising event. We have such a wonderful lineup for you tonight. But before we start the program, I want to thank our generous sponsors, our advocate sponsor, Bank of the West, fabulous support from the bank, our protector sponsors, Sutter Health CPMC, Vic and Adeline Chung, Credit Suisse, and Christopher Kuo. And our good neighbor sponsors, Martin Building Company, Thompson Builders, Roni Commercial. Did I miss that? And Roni Maintenance. And also thanks to our host committee members, Comcast, Dorman Associates, Nonstop Wellness, Raymond Dela Cruz, Henry and Priscilla Durr, Cheryl Johnson, Rose T.Y. Chen Fund, Albert Lee and Sarah Pei, Dr. Robert E. Lee and Amy I. Yu Mei Lee, Sonia Thomas, June and Ted Tom, Dr. Irene Wong, Cindy and Gary Yang, and Jane Yao and Mark Gibson. Your continued support is part of a network that strengthens and connects a diverse, resilient community around our children. And as Sonia mentioned, the theme of the evening is resilience. And over the past 43 years, Wu Yi Children's Services has been just that. We've been building a network of services to strengthen families so that they can provide the best start for all of our children. From its very beginnings in Chinatown, Wu Yi's mission and values were framed by our bold Asian American women founders to be a place where children from different ethnic and racial groups, as well as English language learners, would thrive together. Our original name, in fact, was the Association for Children's Rights, which embedded the right of every child to have an early education and a care setting that met their needs and guided their path to success in school, family, and community life. This was and continues to be our highest goal. Children are the heart of Wu Yi. Wu Yi means to advocate for or protect children in Cantonese. And our decisions and actions are led by asking what's best for each unique individual child. That's why Wu Yi offers such a vast array of resources to capably meet the needs of unique children and their families. By keeping the child at the core of all we do, we stay in the vanguard of ensuring that they get an early start to a brighter future. So I have a question for our audience now, and you can, answer your questions in the chat. As a child, how did you envision your future? What did you want to be as a grown-up? And share with us, your answers in the chat. We all have a role to play in building a resilient community around our children. And now I'd like to ask Virginia to introduce our panel of experts and advocates who joined us tonight to share their talents and their wisdom about care in early care and education. Virginia?
Thank you, Monica. It's my honor and pleasure to announce our speakers this evening. Just in case you wanted to know, I think I just wanted to travel. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I was a kid. I just wanted to travel. Please join me to welcome Laura Fallsgraff. Laura leads strategy and impact for kindling groups, feature films, and digital campaigns. After writing for video and digital content for President Obama's re-election campaign, she joined Kindling Group as a producer and impact producer. She has led campaigns for Kindling films At Home and Radical Grace, and just premiered her directorial debut, The 39th, a short film about a grassroots political campaign in her Logan Square neighborhood of Chicago. She is co-producer for the documentary No Small Matter, which I hope you had a chance to watch on October 22nd, which we screened. But No Small Matter is the first feature documentary to explore the most overlooked, underestimated, and powerful force for good in America today, early childhood education. And next, I'm pleased to welcome Jamie Nunes. Jamie is Bay Area Regional Manager at Common Sense and supports school districts in their efforts to implement digital wellness initiatives. For over 17 years, Jamie has redefined education practices by combining student online narratives and school data. As a former high school teacher, school administrator, and after-school director, Jamie has trained thousands of educators and families on ways to weave student online identities into learning. When not working, Jamie can be found on the beach teaching his 5-year-old daughter how to surf in the chilly ocean of San Francisco. Last and definitely not least, please welcome President of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, former Executive Director of Wu Yi Children's Services, our very dear friend, President Norman Yi. President Yi has worked on behalf of San Franciscans for the past 35 years. He has spearheaded the creation of numerous civic organizations and initiatives, including the San Francisco Early Head Start Program, the Asian Parent Education Network, the San Francisco Child Care Providers Association, and the Chinatown Beacon Center. He was elected to serve on the Board of Education for 2 terms, and he currently serves on the Board of Directors of the San Francisco Child Care Providers Association and the Chinese Culture Foundation. He is a proud grandparent, and his daughters are both currently working in the education field. Back to you, Monica.
Thanks, Virginia, and welcome to our wonderful panelists. I'd like to start with you, Laura, by asking if you would share how you developed the concept for No Small Matter, and what did you want to accomplish in the film? And finally, what did you discover during and since the making of this documentary?
I'm excited to be here and share a little bit more about No Small Matter with everyone. Hopefully some folks on got to watch the film. So really No Small Matter came together, let's see, in 2015. In Chicago, where I'm based, really is a national hub for funding and policy around early education. So No Small Matter's 3 directors had all produced videos and films about early learning and education for foundations and clients, and they were all floored by what they learned in that process about the developing brain, about the data backing up the return on investment, and also the growing political consensus around supporting ECE. And so separately, it's kind of a funny story. Our company, Kindling Group, and our future partners at Siskel Jacobs Productions actually approached the same foundation about making a film, something that we hoped would be kind of the inconvenient truth for early childhood education. And that foundation was like, you guys should all talk to each other and make a movie together. And so we did. We already knew each other and we're excited to work together. So the movie really was intended to both raise awareness about early learning's importance to America as a society, as well as to children and families, and to increase the urgency in communities to solve the problems that prevent too many children from accessing high quality early education. And alongside the film, part of my job was really developing the strategies for reaching a variety of audiences who were poised to make a difference on the issue. And that ranged from healthcare providers, pediatricians, to chambers of commerce, to policymakers. And I don't want to downplay the work that went into that planning and outreach, because I spent quite a few years of my life on it. But honestly, the most exciting discovery from making this film was how hungry communities were to talk about this issue, really across the political spectrum. And it really took off organically. We've now reached more than 100,000 people through grassroots screenings alone, on top of our home video and broadcast and other things. And a lot of that was generated by local groups like yours that just needed a tool for putting early education on lawmakers' radars. And it's turned into real gains. So we've been a part of campaigns for increased early education funding from Alabama to Vermont to the US Congress, as well as professional trainings for pediatricians, for childcare providers, K-12 teachers and administrators. Really, it runs the gamut. And I worked on films and campaigns around a lot of different kinds of issues. And I can say there's something really special and exciting happening around early education that I'm just like, I'm so grateful to be a part of. So yeah, you know, and the way forward, I think, for this film and maybe for campaigns like this is, you know, it's hard to say anything with certainty this week or today about the future, but we have such an incredible opportunity to take a leap forward on early education right now, especially as we're talking about COVID relief and getting our economy back up and running. Childcare and early education are such an important part of that discussion. And if other variables don't get in the way, I think, you know, there's a bipartisan group of folks that want to get this done and want to make a historic investment in this arena. So, you know, encourage everyone on Zoom and in your communities to think about how you can be a part of making that happen, whether it's talking to your employer or your local chamber or calling your representatives. And I think resilience, that idea has never been more important this week for all of us. And I think it's taken a lot of resilience to get us to this point. So really kudos to all of you and the amazing work that you do.
Well, thanks, Laura, for sharing that. That was, you know, that film was so eye-opening in so many ways. Those of us who are in the field, you know, a lot of it was not new, but it's always a good reminder when you see the data and when you hear and look and view the stories of people that are struggling because they don't have access. And the teachers that we know are struggling to survive and stay in the field because they're not paid enough. So these are all the huge policy issues that you brought up and raised in this wonderful documentary. And it truly is a gift to the community of ECE so that we can use it as an advocacy and as an education tool with our colleagues, policymakers, and community members. So I just want to thank you on behalf of not just Wu Yi, but the ECE community for that gift that you've given to us. And hopefully it will bring us you know, to the next phase. So, I mean, we want to see the pathway forward as much as you do. And thank you again, because it was really a wonderful, wonderful documentary. So Jamie, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. Tell me a little bit about your work at Common Sense. And, we know that kids are exposed to media and technology at increasingly younger ages. Should we be concerned? And what does the role of media play in early education and developing healthy habits, both for the child and in the family? With COVID-19, it's really created a reality where media is unavoidable. We have not infants, but toddlers and preschoolers in circle times looking at their screens. And so we know it's unavoidable, but how do we bridge the opportunity gap and better serve those who, number one, lack access? And also, how do we make sure that the media and technology that we're using is doing the right thing? I know that's a big question, but whatever you want to add, we'd love to hear from you.
Those are really great questions. And let me just start by thanking you all for inviting both Common Sense as well as I'm just so honored and humbled to be a part of the group. So Laura, thank you for such an amazing film that you've created. I recently saw it and I viewed it, and kudos to you for telling a great story. I really admire that. So smile at yourself before you go to bed tonight if you can. Supervisor Yee, I've seen you a number of times, and I think you never age. You're probably just, you got to tell me what cream you use, but I really appreciate just being in your presence. So you've had such an impact on, and particularly this for early childhood, but for the work that you've done across the board. And Monica, and the work that you and the group have done at Wu Yi, thank you all. Really appreciate resiliency. What a better time, what a better theme to be addressing it. So let me talk a little bit about the space, because I know it's a very loaded question. There's lots of sort of nuances and complexities to it. First, at Common Sense, we are the leading nonprofit, and our aim is to help families, kids, families, and educators thrive in this digital space. And as you might imagine, since March, our workload has just almost tripled, right, with distance learning. But our key and our mission has never sort of wavered. And I think it's really critical to think about the online space in three spaces, or three areas. And for those of you listening, all the folks that are on the call today, what I encourage you as I'm chatting is, if you see your child, if you have any kids, smile at them, give them a hug, give them a kiss. If you have grandkids, do that before you go to bed tonight. Let them know that you really appreciate their presence. That's really key in all this. One of the things that I think we do at Common Sense is really address what is actually happening in this space. And what we found is that since 2011, the time that our kids are spending online has exponentially grown, right? So back in 2011, on average, our kids were spending roughly about 5 minutes. And now, since 2017, that number grew to about 48 minutes. We don't have recent figures. We're going to come up with a report at Common Sense in a few weeks from now about the increasing time during this space. But with that time, what I feel and what I think would be important to really note is that our families continually are bombarded with messages, with imagery, with content that they don't know what to do with often, right? And particularly as they expose their child to a camera for the first time or a phone for the first time, setting at the foundation is critical. And I think this is the inflection point that we're now in front of. That schools are now messaging our families to say, we want your child to be on a Zoom call, or parents are engaging with one another on Zoom calls. And yet our curiosity is, have we set the foundation for learning in this space? Have we said to our kids, not move the conversation away from time, but when you're in front of the device, here are the ways in which I want to behave. Here's what I want you to sort of engage with. And part of the question, I think, has to do with resetting not only our values, but resetting and trying to think about the network that reinforces the values that we want to have. And I think this is where Wu Yi comes in as an organization that really reinforces these great traits that we want to support our families, not only with tech, but the appropriate uses of tech. At Common Sense, we've deemed the term digital citizenship or digital wellness. And that means, how do you think critically about the time and the spaces that you're in when you're in front of technology? And one of the key components, I think, and I'll close with this, is we have an opportunity, but we have also to set a foundation for our kids, not only about how they learn, but about what they want to do to change their spaces when they're online. So if you're in kindergarten, for example, and your teacher is saying, we're going to spend the next 2 hours doing X, Y, and Z, as a family really reflecting to say, is that 2 hours really reflective of what we want our family to be doing during this time? And if it's not, partnering with schools to really address and to shift and to iterate on what learning could look like. I think that's critical and that's key, and it's an invitation for families listening in this evening. And then the last part of your question, particularly around access, is really thinking more critically about the complexities associated with the gap itself in technology. So months ago, we used to address this issue around, do each of our kids have access to the internet? Do they each of them have access to a Chromebook or a laptop? But I invite us to think about this issue much more critically, which is, do these tools help to reinforce what learning could look like? Does learning look equitable in this particular space? And are families given not only the training, but also the support to thrive in this space? And really, when we start thinking about access in these terms, then we can really start to build a foundation about what tech would look like. Personally, professionally, I think we're at an interesting point with the bombardment of tech and the overconsumption. We're seeing a lot of correlation with our kids being fatigued online. And I think we can take that back by saying this is how we want to be intentional about the time that we do spend online. So again, thank you, and happy to answer any questions. But if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hug your kids, or in your case, Supervisor your grandkids. So at some point.
Well, Jamie, that was really, really important and good advice for all of us. I'm a grandmother of 3, and my youngest is 4, so I know what that online fatigue looks like when I'm watching her. And I think there's going to be lots of questions for you coming up tonight. So hang in there, because this is a topic that is so top of mind for anybody that's at home, engaged in distance learning. And even before this and after this, technology and media are continuing, if not more, this is maybe prompted even more use in the future. So hang on, I'm sure we'll have some questions for you. But I want to now pass over on to our wonderful President Norman Yee. And I know that you believe, as we do, that children are essential to San Francisco and to a healthy and diverse and thriving city. So what's your vision, President Yee, for a diverse city? And how does early care and education play a role, and a policy play a role in that? And I just want to ask you also, what challenges did you face to make early care and education a priority policy issue or area in San Francisco? Because it wasn't previously. You have almost single-handedly made this a priority for our city. So I want to ask you both, what is the role of policy, and what are the challenges in making that a priority?
Okay, good questions that would take 10 hours to answer.
Yeah,
I'll try to sum it up. First of all, it's nice seeing you again, Jamie, and Laura, nice meeting you. And I've heard a lot of good things about your work, and it's always a pleasure to actually get I can't say we're face to face, but at least in today's world, we are face to face. It's really interesting to listen to both of you before I get into answering that. The questions you pose and the issues you pose are relatively not new, but it's recycled itself. I remember almost having similar discussions 30 years ago with Milton Chen, I think. He was a producer or affiliated with Sesame Street. And what is the role of Sesame Street, at the time with TV and a parent like me that didn't want my kids to watch TV at the time. So it's actually interesting to listen to your answer to Monica's questions. The role, it's early education. We're fortunate in San Francisco that we have a lot of strong advocates, and it's not a recent phenomenon. It started with a lot of people, people like Patty Siegels in the world, and many others that were just there. And I was part of the beginning of the movement in the 70s, to see, to actually preach the importance of what early education is. I mean, most of the discussion was it in the earlier days was childcare. Why childcare? Why are we destroying the mother and the family? And that lasted for a long time until we accepted the fact that, hey, people have to go to work, kids actually learn, and childcare isn't childcare what you think of it from the 50s or the 40s. You know, childcare now is synonymous to early education. It's something that the state of California took a little while to grasp. I remember having discussions at the state level in terms of just the desired results and all these regulations that we're going through, and saying, and me asking the question, why is it different? Why should it be different? Childcare and early education, why do we have different regulations? And eventually we would have to force the issue, oh, they're not different. Well, why do we have a different rate for in reimbursement in terms of childcare, what you call childcare versus, you know, early education? And that gap is closing a little bit. And so we've had that discussion in the city for a long time. And I think I come from it. For somebody being on the Board of Supervisors, I probably have a unique perspective on this, and even on the Board of Education, that I actually come from the world of early education. And I sort of get some of these issues, because many of the issues that is brought up in No Small Matter are things that we were fighting with or fighting for. Probably in the 80s, we did a lot of organizing around similar issues, and trying to say, no, I mean, why aren't you, you know, in the private industry, why don't you have childcare, you know, in your workplaces? One or two corporations tried, and it wasn't, it really never took off. And then in more recent, you know, with the school board, I remember even on the school board 10 years ago or 15 years ago, when I was on the school board for 2 terms, there was always that discussion of, geez, why do we have preschool here? I mean, they're taking away our money. And until I got on the school board and we changed that discussion around to say, no, it doesn't, it's not a deficit, it's an investment that we're putting into. And I think we were probably the first major unified school district that became a pre-K-12 district. And I know there's others now, but at the time we were probably the first one. So walking into where I am now, I didn't have to convince my colleagues. I mean, they sort of knew the value, but nobody championed it. It was the oddest thing. And so it made it easy with people from the community, Wuyis in the world, and all the advocates that came to City Hall for them to ask for things and for me to say, yeah, I think we could get this done. And very few of my colleagues from, whether it's this year or 8 years ago, would say, no way we're going to fund early education. So I think it really took maybe somebody like myself who was willing to say, this is what I'm going to champion versus other important issues. So that was probably one thing. And one of the things I did try to do over the years is just put early education and childcare issues up front, in front of everybody's face, whether it was former Mayor Ed Lee and now Mayor London Bree. They know every time I walk into the office, okay, what are you going to talk about in a childcare today? So they don't even question what I'm going to talk about. And we've been fortunate to have these policies, the things that you're talking about, you know, whether it's we need more funding for not only low income, but middle income families so that we could subsidize them. We need more funding to raise the salaries of teachers who are the lowest paying professions we know of, and so on. Even building out childcare centers now. When 8 years ago, nobody was building it when they were building offices or housing. In the last four I would say the last 4 years, every major development that walks into my office, when developers, the first thing they would say is, yeah, we're gonna put a childcare center there. Will you support it? So we're actually seeing a lot more of these childcare centers built in these projects, which is a really good thing because, you could have money for slots, but if you don't have any facilities, you're in trouble. So I don't know if I'm really answering your question. I'm going on and on.
No,
And-
you are absolutely. Yeah.
And more recently, I don't know if you were going to ask about Prop F.
Prop F.
Can I talk about it now?
Yes, please do.
I am so thrilled. I mean, I think San Francisco has been leading the way in many ways in terms of resources for early education. It's not there. I mean, but a few years ago, a bunch of us got together and said, hey, we got to do something about salaries. We got to do something about how do we serve the middle income and low income from 0 to 5. And we put a ballot initiative together called Prop C 2 years ago and passed. It would have given us 145 million additional to what we've been spending in San Francisco to grow the pot. And then it's been stuck in the lawsuit. Well, I was able to find a way as we changed the business tax to unlock all that money that we've collected in the last few years. When I talk to people, I said, if we pass this proposition, which it did pass, we're going to have half $500 million available to us today to support. And everybody said, well, so what? They kept on thinking I said $500,000. No, I said, finally I had to change it. I said, no, 500 million we have sitting in the bank in which we could help families, we could help teachers, we could help people, the field right now in terms of going through the pandemic because they're not getting help from the federal government. So I will stop at that because otherwise I'll just go on and on.
And I just have to say, for those of you that are listening to this and kind of in awe of what Supervisor Yee has accomplished with his nonstop advocacy over these years, he's built a coalition. He's helped us to build and strengthen our coalition. And that proposition passed by 68% on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
That's a huge margin.
All we needed was 50.
Yeah. So that tells you what advocacy and the resilience of people that just don't stop. The Energizer Bunny over here just doesn't give up. And, we're so thrilled that we actually do now have this money freed up to go towards all the things that Supervisor mentioned are the bottom line, the benchmarks that we need, the facilities, the salaries, the reimbursement rates, and the access for all children. So, this is a celebration tonight for us, really, Supervisor Yee. I don't know, I wish we could put fireworks on the screen, but that's the way I'm feeling right now, is what a great accomplishment.
I bet you Virginia knows how to put fireworks.
Yeah, Virginia. So I don't know how much time do we have left for
We have time for just one question. We are getting tight, but there's one question from the audience. How can parents help our kids foster collaboration with projects that were done in groups in the past but are now done individually at home? Question is for Jamie.
Well, I didn't realize I should have been polled at this point. I'm going to process that question for a second because I think it's a great question. Got it. So here's what I would suggest. Wu Yi as an organization is critical to that connection. And again, I'm not sponsored by Wu Yi. I'm such an advocate. And as President Yi sort of mentioned, I think it takes a network. It takes sort of this village to create connections with someone that tells you, hey, we need to pivot because our kids are spending too much time online, or, the time that we are in front of your kids needs to be not only academic, but enriching to their own development. Being able to connect on that is critical. The next piece I would encourage you all is to think about what your collaborations with your educators look like, and being able and being comfortable to push back when you feel that the time spent online doesn't reflect the values that you have as a family.
Mm.
And finally, I want you to think about what exact values that you have. You know, Ellen Galinsky's work talks about life skills, right? These 7 life skills that she says, and they range from understanding unique perspectives to being able to take on challenges. And I would encourage you both to look at her work, but also to think about how you can apply some life skills into the online space. And so if your child is in front of the screen this evening or tomorrow, and you just passively just want to give them the screen or say, you know, just watch this show because I'm cooking dinner. First, I want to raise my hand nice and high because I'm also that parent sometimes. I'm exhausted, you know, and sometimes that's the solution, but that's not often the right solution. So it's easy to simply just pivot and to say, what am I trying to do? How am I going to partner with my child to say, you're going to watch X amount of time, but in that, I'm going to ask you a few questions during and after you watch and you consume this content. So again, being able to collaborate with organizations like Wu Yi, being able to partner with your educators and to say, know when to push back when you're overly consumed or your kids are feeling fatigued. And then finally, being able to understand what values that you've set forth as it relates to your kids' time online. Hopefully I've given you some fodder here.
Yeah, that's a great way of framing this for us, Jamie. And I like the fact that you're saying that, you know, again, it goes back to what we say, no parent has to do it alone. Call your provider, call your educators, call your support groups and say, I'm having trouble with this. Do you have any suggestions? So you're not out there, you know, by yourself and you're and frustrated and your child's frustrated. So thank you for that. We could probably go on, you're right, for another hour or so easily, but I guess we have to move on, right, Virginia?
Yes, thank you so much, Monica. Thank you so much, Laura, Jamie, and President Yi, for your compelling insights and all your hard work to build a resilient community. We do have to get to the next part of our program. There was a question to Laura about access to the documentary, and we can send that information in an email after the event. But please welcome back our board president, Sonia Thomas.
What an inspiring panel of speakers. Now, if you're just joining us, we just heard from our Fallsgraff, co-producer of documentary No Small Matter, Jamie Nunez, area regional manager at Common Sense, and Supervisor Norman Yi, president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Here at Wu Yi Children's Services, we believe nothing is more essential than excellent childcare and education for all our children right from the start. Every day we partner with parents as well as countless individuals and organizations across San Francisco to provide a network that both strengthens and connects a diverse, resilient community around our children. Because when we stand up for our children, we stand up for one another. Thank you for sharing your evening with us. We truly appreciate it. You're welcome to make a gift anytime you feel inspired. To donate, follow the link in our chat or text WUYEE, W-U-Y-E-E, to 44321. Funds raised this evening will help our teachers and families overcome this pandemic, getting kids back to learning, receiving high quality childcare and education. Now I have the great pleasure of welcoming my very dear colleague and talented member of the Wu Yi Board of Directors, Chris Kuo, and his mother, world-class pianist, Michelle Kuo. Chris and Michelle, if you would, please share with us why you support Wu Yi and how you came up with this amazing idea to perform for benefit audiences. And what will you be performing for us this evening?
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Sonia. I was inspired to produce this tour when, as an adult, I learned that my mom had given up her musical career to raise her 2 children. She was a child prodigy, #1 in her country as a young teenager, and was touring all over the world. My parents were very fortunate to make a living doing music, which they actually love. Although my parents came as immigrants, we had a strong foundation, and my brother and I had the full support of our parents. No parent should have to go it alone, and we know that so many parents and family members have to make that incredibly difficult choice between caregiving and working. The cost of childcare and lack of access is a significant barrier to economic securities for families with young children. In San Francisco, only 15% of children ages 2 and younger have access to early childcare education. I'm so proud and grateful to my mom for everything that she sacrificed for us. And I wanted to bridge our love for classical music to raise awareness for early childcare education as an issue and help other families. It's simply the most overlooked area for economic development. And if there's anything that we've learned from this pandemic, it's that parents simply cannot go back to work unless they have access to early childcare. Our teachers have shown incredible resilience in the face of this global crisis. They knowingly and bravely put themselves at risk every single day. And they're at the front lines because children are at the heart of everything that we do here at WUYI. They do it because they know how much San Francisco families need them. My mom and I have chosen to perform Sergei Rachmaninoff's A Night for Love from his first duo suite. It's one of our favorite pieces and one of the first pieces that we've learned together, and that's the reason why we chose to share it with you tonight. I would like to dedicate this piece to our teachers, children, and families who are working so hard and fighting to get by every single day. Please join us in support if you're able. In partnership with Credit Suisse, my family and I will be personally matching up to $5,000 this evening. You can donate by following the link in the chat or texting WUYE, W-U-Y-E-E, to 44-321. That's 44-321. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we really hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Wow. Not only is that just a touching and beautiful performance, but your story, Chris, the story about you and your mom and your journey together has touched all of us. And I think that quite honestly, in this stressful time, we so needed that. That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your talents and your treasures with us. I can't thank you enough. And for those of you that don't know, this is just a part-time thing for Chris. He does this on the side while working full-time. And, you know, that's dedication, and that's obviously pure talent. And Michelle, just beautiful. So after that inspirational performance, I have a question for you, for our group again tonight. Go back in time and think about your champion, who that was when you were young. Whether a teacher, relative, friend, guardian, or caregiver, give them a shout out in the chat. This is your time. As Chris honored his mother, this is a time for you to honor and give thanks to that special person who was your champion when you were young.
I think, like everyone else, I never really appreciated how much and how hard my mom worked until I became a mom. So she's definitely one of my inspirations. I want to share just how proud and humbled I am to be a part of this community of hard-working caregivers and nurturers. I just want to thank everyone who is here with us tonight, supporting and helping us building this strong, resilient, and diverse community around our children. As a parent of a 5-year-old, I know how it can feel overwhelming. Even for those who are most prepared and supported by family and friends, can feel like we're still failing from time to time. And just when we think we have it figured out, something changes and we're recalibrating again. Whether we lose a job or a child suddenly regresses in their behavior, the stresses of parenthood are heavy.
And that's why no parent should have to go it alone, as we keep saying. Parents need a partner who understands their challenges, listens to their aspirations, and walks alongside them to provide the best for their children and all of our children. Now let's listen to a few of our resilient community members, award-winning teachers, and dedicated parents who work tirelessly to strengthen our communities for our children.
$10 y en la bolsa de materiales para trabajar con la niña en la casa y en comida. Todos los miércoles venimos a recibir la comida de él. Y la niña quiere venir a clases aquí a jugar con sus compañeritos y no quiere estar en casa ya.
Family Services ensures no parent has to go alone by distributing food, providing diapers and baby wipes, and helping families obtain financial support. At the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, we supported our children and our families through emergency aid and virtual instruction. With our classrooms closed, the Family Services team checked in with families virtually and provided activity kits to ensure children continue to learn and grow while the shelter-in-place orders were in effect here in San Francisco. As we reflect on this past year, we are very grateful for the broader community support during this unprecedented times. Magic Tooth Bus, API, and Eagles provided our families dental kits, and Hospitality Help Taste Catering provided dinner and hot meals for our families. Our community's generosity is vital to ensuring no parent has to go alone.
Norma and Fanny represent the thousands of parents, family, community members who make up the support network that give the best possible start to our children and help us all build a brighter future. Please give if you can. We're almost at 80% of our goal, and we need just $15,000 tonight. Text WUYEE, WUYEE, to 44321, or click on the link in the chat. Chris and his family and Credit Suisse are going to be matching $5,000 tonight. $5,000 could help us start a family childcare business. There are still childcare deserts, believe it or not, in San Francisco. And the fact is there's only enough capacity for 15% of the birth to 2-year-olds in the city. So $5,000 can help start a family childcare center, which could serve hundreds of kids over the years. If you can support with $2,500 could support an early learning hub. Many teachers were faced with the dilemma of whether or not they could get back to work because they didn't have anywhere to send their kids. Just like the rest of us working parents, that's something that we have to problem solve. And so WUYEE has stepped up to provide an early learning hub so that teachers could bring their kids to work and provide a structured environment for their kids so they can take care of the community's kids. So if you can support with $2,500, that will help our early learning community hub pilot. If you can support with $1,000, that cleans a center serving 40 children for a week. Of course, the expenses of cleaning every day during the pandemic has grown exponentially, and there's just no way around it. We want to keep our kids, our families, and our teachers safe. So $1,000 a week to help 40 kids stay safe for in-person learning. $500 could contribute 1 week of diapers to 30 families sheltering in place. Did you know that a classroom of 6 infants will go through at least 30 diapers a day? It was getting harder for families to access their basic necessities during the start of the pandemic, and it's still hard. Not all of the kids are allowed back inside the classroom. We had to reduce capacity. So those families who would regularly be receiving those basic necessities in the classroom now have to get it out on their own. And for those families who we couldn't serve in person, we are still committed to providing them with virtual learning. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure that they had the necessities they needed in order to provide the best possible environment for their kids. $250 can provide 300 meals for 5 children in a month. 300 meals, so $250, that's $1.50 a meal. Kids eat a lot. They need a snack, they need the lunch, and they need another snack. They eat about every 3 hours or so, or even more. So $250 could help a lot. $100 can provide a tablet and headphone set for 1 child to participate in virtual learning. We want to make sure that every child, whether they're in classroom or in home, can access the support that they need. A gift in any amount will help tonight. We're so grateful for your support. A gift of $100 or more will enter you to win a 8th generation iPad. So I hope we can meet our goal. We're trying to raise $15,000 more tonight. Chris and his family and Credit Suisse will be matching $5,000. If you want to see how we're doing, go ahead and go to our donate page. Thank you so much, Kimberly Olson, and thank you, Mark Tao. And thank you, Irene Wong, for your generosity. Thank you, Cindy. Also, thank you so much to the Johnson family, to Henry and Priscilla Durr, to Robert Hay, to Ava Gardner and Leslie Rothman, Elizabeth Leap, Anthony Sue, Dan Liu, Stephanie Lowe, Mary Hackenbrack, Sharon Donovan, John and Maggie Chiang, Cheryl Horney, Joanne Lowe, David Sloves, Francesco Rivetta, thank you. Rona Ash, Sonia Thomas, thank you so much. Lindsay Stratton, Sarah Moore, thank you. Lauren Acevedo, thank you so much. Gretchen Wallaker, Jen Wu, Lori Ho, Raymond Dela Cruz, Ivy, Sunny Jolly, Fion Chan, Monica Wong, Kiyomi Noguchi, Emily Shell, Valentina Fickler, Jennifer Larson, Carney Zhang, David Ip, Pavina, Christine, June, Christine Bideonis, thank you so much. Now I'm going to announce the winners of the prizes. The winner of the Bose noise canceling headphones, Ava Chang. Congratulations. And the winner of the trivia poll for the $100 Amazon gift card, Fengshen Tang. Congratulations. And finally, the winner of the 8th generation iPad, Allison Giddens. Hope I said that right. Congratulations. And thank you so much for your support and participating. Monica?
Yes, I'm here. I was just so excited listening to all that wonderful round of gifts and donations. We're so grateful to all of you. And I want to give a special thank you to organizations who stepped up early to help us weather the storm as the pandemic took hold. There were so many community partners, and they're listed here on the screen in front of you. All of these folks really gave it their all to help us to actually open and stay open. And again, when we stand up for children, we stand up for one another. So thank you to everybody listed here. And I guess we're going to move on.
Technical difficulty.
Oh.
Thank you so much for people who stepped up early in the pandemic, donating supplies and PPE. It was so hard to get. I just want to remind everyone that you can donate online or text WUYI to 44321. And we're going to bring back Michelle and Chris Kuo for an encore performance. So here we go.
Bravo.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We're going to roll the credits as we ease out of here.
And I just wanted to say, I hope you all had as much fun as I did and learned a few things along the way. This has been a fabulous evening. And Chris and Michelle, absolutely out of the park. It was fabulous.
Let's have the crew turn their cameras on.
Hey, and thank you again, Laura, Supervisor Yee, Jamie. We had so much fun listening to you and sharing ideas together. It's been a wonderful evening for us.
Thank you for having us.
All of our donors, yay. Thank you again on behalf of the children.
Thank you, Raven. Also want to wish Chris and Michelle a very, very happy birthday. They just had their birthdays this week.
Woohoo!
And they were spending it with us.
And you know, all of the work that went into preparing that amazing performance. We can't be prouder and more blessed to have you as our friends, and Chris, for you on the board. Thank you again so much. Look at our great ambassador crew.
We've activated Chris's match. Thank you, everyone, so much for your gifts tonight.
Thanks, production crew.
If you're still hanging on and you're curious about whether or not you answered those trivia questions correctly, hang on tight. We'll have that slide coming up for you. Thank you for everyone who participated.
Look at all that going on in their brains.
100 billion brain cells. Those are hard questions. There's a lot going on in those heads. We don't even see.
Okay, that's all right. You're never too old to learn more, Sonia.
Mike's got about 20 brain cells left. I think that's all of us after 2020.
Again, I can't stop saying thank you, but this has been a really fabulous evening, and I really want to do a shout out to our crew. Virginia, awesome job.
Thank you.
Kiyomi, fabulous co-production. Kim Olson, Jimmy, all of you guys, thank you so much for helping put this together for us. And our wonderful board for supporting us along the way. And all of our sponsors.
We did it, our very first virtual event. That was so hard. I think it's worse than an in-person event. Thank you, Vlad, for teaching us all about tech. We had, on average, a 4-year-old asked 437 questions a day. And this is why, pro tip, you should get an Alexa, because my 4-year-old was asking questions to Alexa while I was working.
Yeah.
And do newborn babies produce tears? They do not. They do not. It's true, they do not produce tears.
Parents produce tears when they look at their newborns for the first time.
Oh. People are most active at 2 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens when they're around 2. Babies can start
after watching my 4-year-old, because she's asking so many questions all the time.
It's another job, 24-hour job. Babies can start recognizing signs at 6 to 8 months and can communicate with sign language at 8 to 12 months.
Wow.
Yes. And WUI currently has 12 centers, and we're working on 5 more centers. They're in the pipeline in the areas that need it most. Your contribution will help with a vast array of things, helping us with our new centers, helping us with the Third Street project hub, our impact hub, our learning hub. Stay in touch with us. Visit us, wuyi.org. Visit us online, chat with us. Send us an email at communications@wuyi.org. Not too late to donate. This evening will be recorded, so you can share it with your friends who couldn't make it today. Super easy to donate. We accept PayPal and Google Pay, cash, check, wire transfer, car donations. Everything helps. Thank you so much, Michelle and Chris Quo, for the beautiful performance.
Absolutely.
So needed.
It did our hearts good to hear that beautiful music.
And thank you everyone again for being a part of our resilient community and helping our kids get back to learning. Any last words, Monica?
Oh, just again, a heartfelt thank you. Stay safe, everybody. Stay healthy. Take care of one another. Be kind to each other. And never forget that when you stand up for children, you stand up for one another.